Welcome to week number 4, where we moved on from prehistory to ancient history and ancient culture. Now, we're going to split up ancient history into a little bit differently than I do in my middle school classes. In middle school, we've talked about ancient Mesopotamia, the Indus River Valley, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient China, all of those. But when we look at the ancient culture in this class, we're just going to limit to those first few: Mesopotamia, Indus River, and Egypt. And the reason why we're doing that is Greece and Rome are seen as those classical, late classical. They have a different connotation behind them. So, with that, let's look at Mesopotamia. You can see we are right there, Mesopotamia, between the Indus and not Indus, my bad, Tigris and Euphrates rivers, that fertile crescent. And that is the key of the culture right there, farming. That fertile crescent right between those two rivers, because now the first place that we can stop and start civilizations has to be a place that we can grow food easily. And that is exactly what they did there. In the beginning, it was about 14,000 BCE when that area first started to be like, hey, maybe there's something to it. Then around 9,000 BCE, that's when farming takes off. They develop it, animal husbandry. They know what crops to grow, when, how to harvest, and a lot of growth. Why? Well, because now they're not wasting time looking for food. They are growing food. They are advancing. If a place can hold or feed 20 people, it will hold 20 people. Now, with farming, those places can hold way more people. And you can see in 3200 BC, Sumer, the first little area, Uruk, the first city, had 50,000 people. Why? Because farming was there. Agriculture was there because they could feed each other. And it was a rich city. Why? Because they can trade that food. If they can grow all this food and other people are like, well, we're kind of hungry too, they're going to start trading things they can find and help each other out. One of the empires of this area was the Akkadian Empire with Sargon the Great. And it was brief. And a lot of these Mesopotamian ones are kind of like rise up, woo, fall away. Because there's a lot of different city states in this area, changing, shifting, fighting what they believe and how they see it. So Sargon the Great is the one who rose up the Akkadian Empire. He is the one who made it worth studying, and it becomes the world's first multicultural empire. That's another thing that you can look at with this new culture, this ancient culture, is it's multicultural. As in, they're bringing in ideas, people, inventions. They are looking at new ways of seeing things from multiple points of view, not just one. It's always, and one of the reasons why we have these discussion posts and I force you to reply, it always is better to get everyone thinking. Two heads are better than one. You see things from different angles. You have different points of view. You're able to explain it in ways no one else has thought of. Because every single person, even siblings, see the world differently, have different experiences, different takeaways from things. And so that world's first multicultural empire meant that part of the culture was inclusiveness. Like, hey, let's work together, let's get along, to an extent. Of course, there's always that fighting, there's always that arguing, but let's get along and build something even better. Another one is the Babylonians, and they were constantly at war. So another part of this culture that you can talk about in the ancient is just growth, in the sense that they are pushing their way to find new things. They're pushing their way to take over, instead of kind of sitting back in their huts, sitting back in their tents and moving the where the food is. They are trying to expand, trying to get more power, trying to get more food, more money, more, insert whatever good you want to talk about there. Good in the sense that they get it, bad, a lot of resources being used for war. And like we said with Hammurabi, it was his code. So we talk about prehistory being a lot of new and first. Well, ancient history is the same thing. With Mesopotamia being the very first civilization, the first code, the Hammurabi Code, was just that. It taught to talk and walked the walk, meaning it wasn't just empty threats. 282 rules written down, never before done, because kings and queens love that power of being able to make laws whenever they wanted and having no one be able to check them. Hammurabi couldn't just say, oh, this is a law, because they're like, no, there's the 282 laws right there, and that's not one of them. Now, could he easily make the law, change the laws, add laws, subtract laws? Yes, but he had to at least go through that process, giving more rights to the citizens than we've ever seen before. The Hammurabi's Code is known for harsh punishments. Is another part of the culture that you can put at is it was harsh. Hard times create hard people, in that famous saying, where it's looking at trying to survive and change to a different lifestyle than the nomadic lifestyle. So those harsh punishments, but it established something that we still use today, this familiar thing, innocent until proven guilty. With King Hammurabi, citizens had the right to be innocent. They weren't just guilty because someone said they were guilty. They had to prove guilt. And that's why, even today, he is shown on the US Supreme Court building. This dude who died thousands of years before he even knew, or like the European world even knew North America existed, is on the Supreme Court building of the United States, or where we determine what's legal, what's not, what's constitutional. All of Hammurabi's code is written in if then. If this happens, then that will happen. The culture of Mesopotamia and this whole area is agriculture. It literally means land between rivers. Meso, between Potamus, rivers, land between rivers, Fertile Crescent. Their religion was polytheistic. So we can see that they're probably shifting into a more formal religion than prehistory. They have specific ways, and they are starting to be written down. Art, metallurgy, we're starting to build things out of metal for art, not weapons, not tools. We want to make this look pretty. Same with the pottery and gifts. Ooh, these people started to sit down and get smart. Now, when I say get smart, I'm not calling the prehistory people dumb, because they did a lot of things. But all of a sudden, with Mesopotamian time period, time, math, wheels, sailboats, maps, writing, irrigation just start happening. Inventions that we never had before, all of a sudden, are becoming very, very important. And you can see all of them right there. The Indus River Valley is pushing Mesopotamia as who was really the very first civilization. I still say Mesopotamia because of how long it's been that way, but I am listening to the Indus River Valley, or the Harappan civilization people, because they did something different. It wasn't war. As you can see, they're right there along the Indus River, where it's very forestry. And we're just now discovering them. And we found out they're very systematic. You look at these pictures in the bottom corner, they are very organized system. Everything has a place, everything has a flow. It's not randomly put together. They were those kings of trade because they could work with others. They had things no one else had. They connected Asia and the Middle East with their location so they could have that trade flow back and forth. They were innovative. They had indoor plumbing. Folks, there are places today that don't even have indoor plumbing, but yet they had it back then. We haven't discovered it for so long because of how thick those forests are and just kind of how it's broken down. The other big one that talks about ancient culture is Egypt. As you can see there, it's all about the Nile River, going back to agriculture once again. The pyramids. So religion is a huge part of the Egyptian culture, building pyramids, temples, worshiping many, many gods. Cleopatra is one of those famous pharaohs meaning great house or king, queens, that led to Egypt rising and falling, and using many, many works and details and abilities with all of that. Egypt is one of those civilizations that's been taken over time and time again. Between them and Mesopotamia, agriculture thrived. And with that, we'll talk about the art next week. To your discussion post, make sure you read that, check it out. We're going to just look at the ancient culture and see what ticks, what flies, what you like about it. Make sure you're getting all those discussion posts done. I'm going to start grading them a little tougher because now that we have a couple weeks on our belt, it is let's go. We're in college. We got to make them deep, thoughtful answers, bring it fully out, and all of that lovely stuff. So, with all of this lovely ancient culture to go, good luck. And if you have any questions, feel